YouTube, welcome to another issue of the Ghost Light Social. Sorry, I'm just moving my camera. How are you doing, Lee? How's
Listen,
life?
before we get on to me, how are you doing? How is it in the COVID household?
Well, I was thinking everything was all right until about 4 minutes ago, but we'll get on to that later. When I was going to the test centre, I thought what would be really, really interesting is if I'd film it. A little bit for prosperity and a little bit because I really want to show it off on the internet and go, ooh, look at this. It's really, because it was just like going onto a set of in Hollywood. It was unreal, people in hazmat suits and all that kind of stuff. This is me driving into the test centre.
You look like you're about to do a drive-by.
Yeah, and the annoying thing is I set it going and I drove in and I thought, oh great, I'll just leave that and then I'll do everything and I'll stop it when I get out. And then when I got out, I was like, 30 seconds and it just cut out. So I'm really, really disappointed that I couldn't show you anything really more interesting than my 90-degree turn in a Peugeot 307.
You can't really see the turn either, can you? You just.
No.
So,
I'll tell you what, though. I do look kind of cool driving that car. I thought,
yeah, fair enough.
if there's any parts of kind of getaway drivers, do you know what I mean? That's going on my show reel just specifically for that. Here we go.
Today, we're very, very privileged to have with us Mr. Peter Hunt, casting director, and Mr. David Crowley. I said actor director, but you don't do that much acting now, do you? Are you solely now just a director, David?
Well, you know when people kind of pronounce your name wrong and you just don't want to say anything about it. It's a little bit like that. When I saw it, I was like, I just won't say anything. But yes, it's I've not acted for quite a while now.
Peter, nice to see you. How's things? How's lockdown? How's it going?
It's really challenging because, as David will know as well, we've both got 1-year-olds. So having a 1-year-old kind of locked in with you, I keep dreaming back to the days when I was like, do you know what? Before babies, we'd have just got up every night, drank loads of wine. I might have even gone for a couple of runs, but I might have been more proactive with exercise and all these really wonderful things that people are doing without kids. Like, I'm on my 5th book. I'm doing meditation every day. I'm just trying to get to the end of the day, let alone meditate. As we went on lockdown was the day that I was due to come back from paternity leave. So I haven't actually been in that building since January. So all of a sudden I'm buying makeshift bits of equipment like tripods and everything else that I need to join into this crazy Zoom world that we live in, where I start calls generally on Zoom at kind of 10 a.m. every day and then they filter throughout the day. So a very quick adjustment to a new way of life, almost overnight.
Do you think this is going to change the way that you work?
It's certainly going to change the way that we work immediately. Earlier on, everyone's getting frustrated about the situation that we're in and we all understand why we're doing it. But I think for me, it's not that we're going to have to adapt to new things. It's the fact that we've got no idea of when, if somebody said right, you're starting in, I don't know, a month's time, 2 months' time, and this is what it's going to be, I can get my head around changing the way I work. It's not knowing when that's going to be, and no one can give you that. So I think that's the hardest thing of knowing, yes, I'm ready to change how I work, but it's when can I start implementing that change? I'm just guessing, but I won't be doing face-to-face auditions in the studio building because I should imagine we won't be bringing anybody into that building that doesn't need to be there. So if there are any auditions, they'll be happening somewhere else. It might be, self-tapes and then we see the last 2 face-to-face. I don't know, but I think obviously everyone's going on about self-tapes, but that's where I think the majority of the bulk of it's going to have to be for now.
And I think whether that's going to be the long term and whether in 5 years' time we'll see that's probably going to be, it's probably not going to be self-tapes. But like you say, in the interim, in that initial kind of when we come back to it, technology is going to have to be our friend a little bit.
But it's the only way we've got to do it, really. And I actually do think, I know everyone's like, this is it, this is the future now. I don't think it will be. Because I think it will be, when all this is over, surely all we're going to want to do is see human beings face to face in a room. We'll be sick of relying on dodgy internet connections and videos that don't load and all of those sorts of things, that actually a face-to-face conversation with a human. And I've never been a fan of the only thing for me a self-tape really does is allow you to open the pool a little bit wider than you would normally go. But it doesn't beat meeting somebody in the room and seeing their personality and giving them direction there and then, rather than emailing additional notes for them to do it again, and then they've got to set their pros. It's an awful lot of work.
You can't beat being in the room with somebody. The feeling that you get when you're in a room with somebody can outshine a performance in many respects. Because anybody that ever comes into the room for you, they're all capable of getting the job. And then when they come into the room, then they're just demonstrating that. And 9 times out of 10, they demonstrate that really, really well. And I think that when you meet somebody live in the flesh, you get a different feeling, you get a different energy, and you just create a stronger, you make a stronger decision on if that person gets the job or not. It makes it a lot easier. I couldn't imagine doing an audition over Skype and getting those feelings that I get when I'm in an audition room with somebody. So you're going in for that whole, the audition as a whole, and that unique, that being in the flesh, I think you just can't beat it. So for the time being, I think that I can only speak from personal experience, but I think that my decision making would suffer, because some people are really good at self-tapes and being able to do something not under pressure, or being able to go 600 times going and going and going and going, and then deciding which one to send, and then sending that one off. And then I go, wow, they're fantastic, but I don't know that that's take 468. And the way how I need to shoot, because everything's on a budget and everything, time matters so much, that you need them to deliver in 2. And you get that in the room, and you put them under more pressure in the room. So you get a better sense of what the act is about and what they can bring.
Have you got a song for our isolation playlist that we've been putting together?
I want to cheat a little bit and give a full album, because I couldn't pick a song. And it's just an album that I'm obsessed with at the moment. It's Laura Marling's new album. Have you heard it?
Oh, yeah, she's great. Yeah.
I can't stop listening to it. The full thing, every single track I love. And it's, I'm one of those types of people that consume things in a really probably unhealthy way, where I have to listen to something. If I like something, TV, film, theatre, anything that I really love, and music is a massive thing of mine, I think that would be my theme tune of Isolation. I've got all of her albums, and she released one during this lockdown, and as soon as I turned it on, every album she's ever done I've completely loved, and I've gone to see her live loads. I would be what you would call a little bit of a fan.
No.
But I am, and I'm really biased as well. So even if somebody said I think it's absolute trash, I would be like, no, it's not. Even if it was a little bit, not quite as good as other albums, I'd still be a little bit like, no, I can't hear bad things about things that I'm obsessed with. I get blind to it, and I know I'm doing it. Like League of Gentlemen, I love it. Oh. And if anybody hates it, I'm like, well, it's brilliant, and
you're wrong.
There are no faults in the League of Gentlemen.
Yeah. With everything that they've ever done, they can't put a foot wrong for me. Yeah.
Sickeningly talented. Makes me sick. Great, thank you. Peter?
Well, I've got a bit of an eclectic taste in music, so I've gone a bit random and different. With the cracking weather, I've been recreating a holiday vibe in my back garden, which includes a massive big blow-up pool for a 1-year-old. It looks like some weird Mexican resort out there. But obviously, I'm a Ibiza boy, so I would go there every year. So there's a great Spotify playlist called Amante Ibiza on Spotify, and that's 6 hours long, and it is just perfect for sunshine. It's totally chilled Ibiza kind of Balearic vibe. And there's a song on there by Monkey Safari called High Life, which is just amazing. And it's really kind of chilled and just what everybody needs right now, with a glass of Aperol Spritz and your feet in your baby's paddling pool as you pretend you're on holiday.
Yeah. But you are very much an Ibiza boy, aren't you? You spend a lot of time in Ibiza.
Absolutely. But you know what I love about Ibiza is it depends on what kind of holiday you want to have. The days of all those super clubs and all of that are way behind, but you love looking from afar and going, oh, those were the days. But now it's much more about the nice restaurants, the chilled out sunsets and stuff like that. I still don't think you can beat an Ibiza sunset. And when you go on some of the amazing Baneras Beach, where all the hippies get out and get the bongo drums out, it's absolutely amazing. And great with families and stuff. It's just a really nice vibe.
Very good. Okay, they're on the list. Thank you very much indeed. So, I'll stick with you, Peter, if that's all right. Mm-hmm. What's the most coronavirus thing you've done?
Well, A week ago, a week and a half ago, we both cut each other's hair.
Okay.
So we did actually get full clippers and scissors and give each other a haircut with the YouTube tutorial.
But you've done proper grading, or rather he has done proper grading.
Yeah, no, we did. We literally got a YouTube tutorial, played a bit, paused it, and did it. And it didn't come out too bad. And the other thing is,
pictures of Andrew as well, and I've got to say, it was a good.
I didn't do a bad job, right?
Good effort.
Thank you. If all else goes tits up, I'll retrain as a barber, eh?
Diversify. Just when we started to go into lockdown, I got really sick, and I've not had a test, so I can't be sure. But if I was wrong and I haven't had it, then I had all the symptoms, and it was a crazy coincidence that I couldn't breathe very well, and I took a really bad turn. Because I come into contact with hundreds of people every week. I work at a university that has thousands of people touching all sorts of different places, and you just think, well, I'm in a really highly likely that I'm gonna catch something. And it was just as it all started to go a little bit west and everything shut down, I started getting sick. I thought I got better, and we were just talking about this before we went live, because obviously Mike's on, what did you say, Mike? You're on day 8?
Day 8, yeah.
Yeah, well, I took a really bad turn. I felt all right for the first 7 or 8 days. And day 9 and day 10, I nearly went to hospital. I was really bad.
Right.
So, yeah, good luck, Mike. I felt terrible when he was like, I'm on day 8, and I was like, oh, should I tell him?
Oh, yeah.
Well, it was just my breath. I couldn't get any air into my lungs at all. And I was just laid on the sofa, just panting. It was awful.
Glad you're on the other side of it.
Yeah, totally fine now. And after day 10, I woke up and I felt like it totally turned a corner, because I was thinking about going to hospital that day. I thought I'll see the night out and then see how I feel. And then the next day I woke up and I just felt infinitely better. I was still not well, but totally better.
I mean, I know you've been working, so we've probably had the answer already, but have you been doing anything creative? Have you been doing anything to keep the creative juices flowing?
There's a bit of a weird world out there on social media right now, isn't there? And I kind of got caught up in people's arguments earlier on, because there's a lot of people trying to keep actors busy and lots of casting directors doing one-to-one sessions and things like that. But I've seen some casting directors being called out for not doing them, and people self-taping on my self-tape hasn't been watched yet it's been requested. I'm like, come on, dude, we're all struggling with this. Like, actually, and again, a casting director friend of mine was being called out, and she went, just because I don't put it all over social media that I'm not doing one-to-ones doesn't mean I'm not doing them. I just don't feel the need to advertise it. But it's perfectly okay if I don't want to do them either, because I just want to be with my family. So I think there's a weird world of that everyone's trying to navigate, but there is a bit of negativity and rights. And I go, well, no, everyone's got the right to not do anything as we want to do. So I'm trying to be creative by doing things like this, and learning how to do lives or whatever else they are, and click the right buttons and not pull the plug on whatever it is that I'm doing. So I'm currently making my way through spotlight breakdowns with agents, where I put out and gone, I think a lot of our, when we do guest casting and stuff like that, normally I try and spread the net far and wide. The reality is, probably when we start back, that's going to need to be more northern. It's quite northern anyway, but actually me going, you're going to need to access the studio and be able to get there yourself. Certainly in the immediate weeks, because we can't rely on trains and everything else. And I know that'll get people talking, and it has got people talking. Quite frankly, I don't care. There's no hotels. There's not really trains, is there? You getting on a train for a casting in the north from London probably isn't going to be seen as a necessary journey, is it? And actually, we can't rely on public transport right now. The likelihood is schedules are going to change last minute. You might get a call saying, no, actually, your scene is due up on Friday, but it's at 4:00 this afternoon, so you need to jump in a car. And I need to know that you have got that flexibility to jump in a car and you're going to shoot that this afternoon. I think that's the world we're going to potentially be looking at.
Yeah.
So trying to just preempt what I can do to try and get ahead of that.
Look at all these people doing all this stuff. I need to be. Where's my sitcom? I haven't written it. Where's my monologue? And I think it's perfectly fine just to go, you know what? Just take a breath. It's fine. It's okay.
Just because people aren't shouting about everything they're doing doesn't mean that they're not doing things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as you said, cool, be creative, write monologues, practice scripts and stuff. Just don't expect personal feedback off 20 castings. Like, you're not going to, at the moment, I say this and I'm trying to do as much as I can. I'm probably get 10 to 15 requests a day from people to do one-to-ones with their client list, to do, kind of Q&As on Zoom and stuff like that. And you go, I'd love to do as much as I can, but the reality is at 10 or 15 requests a day, that's not possible. And my favorite thing right now is it's okay if you don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
But in terms of being creative, I'm trying to be creative by entertaining a 1-year-old.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think that's a great answer.
Yeah.
Amazon is my best friend, which is not great for my kind of ethos about Amazon. But actually, when I need shit the next day to go, we are running out of things now. And sensory stuff and whatever else I can do to survive another 48 hours is what I'm going to do.
David, what about yourself? Because you have a sitcom out on Vimeo at the moment, or has it been taken down?
Yeah, no. So it was only out for 2 weeks. So I only wanted to put it out for a short amount of time, and now it's gone to bed for a while. There was nothing about putting it out online that early, but it was finished. I'd only recently finished it, and I'd finished the cut. And I just thought to myself, I had a chat to Janine, the missus, and said, "What do you think about me just sticking it out online for a couple of weeks and just letting some people just have a bit of a giggle?" We'd all gone to the screening, so all the cast and the crew had all been to the screening, and we'd all enjoyed that. So I just thought, well, I'll stick it online, and then people can have a bit of a watch and see what they think.
I haven't seen the last 2 episodes.
They're the best ones.
So it's called Thick of Thieves, which started as a play that you did in, was it Stockton?
No, Oldham.
Oldham.
So, Thick as Thieves has had a very, very long life. It's 20 years old from its conception. So it started at Edinburgh Fringe. I didn't start this project. A guy called Mark Whiteley, who's the head of Hardgraft Theatre Company. He started it with a guy called Daniel Hoffman-Gill, and then wrote like a 30-minute Edinburgh Fringe play about 2 hapless burglars. And then it evolved, and then they started to do it in people's front rooms. They did a front rooms tour, and then they did a theatre tour, and then it got longer, and then it went into a 2-act play. I was in it at one point as well. I've even done it myself. I played Barry years and years ago. And then in 2014, I think it was, or 2012, I can't remember, but it was one of those dates. Mark asked me to direct it, and so I directed Stephen Arnold and Johnny Dixon in that. And then all these years later, I've always wanted to make it into some telly, and so I rewrote it all. So basically, I stole I asked Mark, of course, but I stole the character and a few gags, and then kind of took it on its next journey, really. So it's a reinvention and a reimagination of the play, I suppose. Being creative director at ActUpNorth, we have ceased trading, as you know, Lee, and I wanted to do something for the students. Pretty much as soon as we went into shutdown, I was thinking about ways in which I can try to engage our students, but then I got really sick, which meant I couldn't do much. So what I'm doing is an online classroom across all 3 cities. There's an online classroom for all our students at ActUpNorth that signed up with us, and it's a free classroom. They've got weekly tasks. There's incentives for them, and they get feedback and all sorts of stuff. So just trying to keep them creative. It's not compulsory. It's totally free for any of them that choose to want to do it. But if they don't want to do it, then it's absolutely fine. It doesn't cost them anything anyway. But we've got such an awesome community there, and of so many really, really wonderful people, and I really genuinely mean that. And when we stopped and everything came to such a sudden end, something just didn't feel quite right about just going, okay, I'll shut up shop and I'll reopen in however long, and I'll see you all again. I just felt like something had to continue, and I didn't know what, but whatever it was, I knew was going to be really, really labour intensive. So far, it's gone down really well. People really appreciate the tasks and the creativity that they are having to put in. We're doing loads of different stuff with them. So every week they're setting a new task, and then I'm getting to watch that. So I'm watching hundreds of submissions, and that might seem like quite a a bind, but when you watch them, it's not at all. It's actually really, really good. You're just watching loads of different scenes, loads of different people's imaginations and creativity. It's really quite awesome. It takes a long time, don't get me wrong, and it is, you know, really heavy to try and feed back to everybody, but it's awesome as well, and it feels right.
Yeah, and I know that because I've seen the activity on Twitter and on social media and stuff, and the take up has been fantastic, and I know that loads of people clearly appreciate it, and it's a really good thing to do. And you want to keep people connected, you know. I think they want to be connected to each other, to the school, to us, to, you know. So yeah, no, it's a good thing.
They're not just acting classes, you know. I think there's something extra that ActUpNorth has in its body, and you know, we've been going for so long now, and there's students that have stayed with us for so many years, and it feels like, you know, we've set up our own little family, and yeah, it just didn't feel right to just go, okay, see you later, little family, and I'll see you when we come back, and don't forget to pay your subscription and all that kind of stuff. It felt wrong, so I just thought, right, okay, well, here I am. I'm going to set it up. If 10 people sign up to it and want to do it, great, you know, then there's going to be 10 of us and we'll all get through lockdown together. But actually, the take-up has been incredible, you know, really overwhelming, actually, where you go, oh, I've got so many.
But it's interesting, isn't it? Because actually it feeds into this whole conversation about, I mean, as an actor anyway, when you're not working, you feel so disconnected from the industry. And especially at this time, we just all feel a bit disconnected from the industry, and we need things like this. So people do their monologues and they put them online or whatever, and that's fine. But, you know, we need this, I think, to keep us sane. Because I know that, you know, I'm quite easygoing, but I know the last week or so I'm starting to struggle a little bit. And if I wasn't doing this with Mike and talking to all lovely, I don't know, you know, I'd just be tearing my hair out if I hadn't left. So it's great. It's really important. It's really important.
It's because you don't know when. This is why I come back to my earlier point. We're willing to adapt. We're willing to do whatever, but you just don't know when. And I think that's what's getting people. If somebody said, right, guys, you've got another shit 2 or 3 weeks, 4 weeks, everyone would be like, right, it's 4 weeks. And we can get our heads around that. It's the fact that at the moment, this could go on forever. And I think that's the bit that everyone's starting to get a bit bogged down by. Well, certainly I am.
I feel like it bottles up inside me, you know, and I don't know what to do with it. You know, I see the guitar behind you, Leah. That was a great outlet for me a lot of the time, just playing the guitar, just to or writing or anything that just kind of felt like I could be creative, because certainly when I was acting and I wasn't working, that was the time where I felt like, you know, how many people in isolation might feel now, where you just feel like you're crawling up the walls and all you want to do is make things and create things. Again, bringing it back into what we're doing at the classrooms, it's just a bit of an opportunity for guys to just throw something in and just kind of go, I did it just for fun, and here you are, and see what you think. It's been great.
Yeah, I think so, and I think that what this has reminded me of is that the one thing that I absolutely love about the job that I do, both teaching and acting, actually, is being around other people. Not just because I can sit in my little pokey office here and I can write stuff and I can do, and I try to keep myself busy, and but actually, and it goes back to this self-tape thing. I need human interaction.
But this is what I said to you. Everyone's going, no, this is the future. And I'm like, well, it might be your future, but it's not mine. Because I fucking love seeing people in the room and talking about everything other than acting. And you know the random questions I ask in castings, you know, what people do for jobs, where they've been on holiday, and all those sorts of things, because I'm genuinely interested in people, their weird personalities, the weird stuff they're willing to divulge about themselves when they're nervous. It's just brilliant. And I go, why would you want to give any of that? Like, my job, I think to be a casting director, you've got to like people. And if you don't like people, why would you just want to sit and watch hundreds of videos? Anybody could do that. And that's what I think, actually. If casting directors don't do the jobs, then we'd not need it. A producer may as well sit and watch self-tapes. There's no craft in that. There's no skill of knowing that person's personality, that person's skills, if you're always just going to judge it off of what they do on every tape. It's boring.